everyone, my name is Shelby and this is the YouTube series where I reveal what's inside these mystery pottery molds I found on Gumtree. This is mold number 6. So I opened this mold up and it's got these 3 sweet little ornaments by the looks of things, and it looks like a crescent moon shape. So classic move. I'm cleaning it all up just because I want to make sure there's no debris inside when I pour it, but it appears that there's these little cute Santas all in different positions sitting on the moon. It is actually so adorable and I'm really excited to see what these look like because I do love the moon. And on the top where I'm pointing, there is a little indent to show where to put the hole, which makes me think that they are definitely ornaments. So rubber band goes on, clay gets all whisked up and ready to pour, and then I pour the mold. So yeah, I'm really excited for these ones because I really love, I think I've always been really drawn to it, is sun and moon pottery. I don't know what it is about it, but I find it so charming and delightful. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what these look like because this is the first sort of moon or sun piece that I've found in the mold so far. So pouring this one up, I had to make sure that it was nice and runny. So before you saw it slipping off my fingertips, that's how I could tell that it was nice and runny to pour in such a small mold. And then I gently, slowly, very slowly poured it in. Just because they are so little, I didn't want them overflowing and spilling everywhere. So as you can see, that stream is quite thin, making sure that it's filling the mold nice and evenly so all the surfaces are covered with the clay. So I let that one sit for about 15 minutes and then I gave it a good shake over the a slip bucket to reuse that slip again. But most of the clay that I used had actually set in there, so not much actually came out. So what I did was I actually put it over my sieve to let any of those droplets drip out that needed to drip out so that it was a nice and even distribution of the clay, and it dried nice and evenly so no cracking would occur. So there it is on the sieve, and then once it was dry, I opened it up and wow, I really love these. They are so delicate, so lovely. I love the shape of the moon, and they sort of just popped out, and that bottom bit, like the pouring spout bit, just sort of came off when the mold got pulled off, like the 2 different parts. So here they are. I love that the Santas are all in different positions. Like, I think that is really sweet that they thought about that. So I went in with a little spinny tool to get that hole out, ready to go. I do this when it's still soft so that, I don't know, I just don't have a drill to do it when they are already baked. But I was a bit rough at the start, so I got a crack, but I went back in and did it properly instead of rushing it with that tool. So I put my mask on because for these ones I'm going to use some colouring from what I got from the molds. So the guy had all this extra sort of colours and paints, so I'm going to try using some of the stuff that I got from him as well. So I'm starting off with this really beautiful electric blue because one of the effects I want to get is sort of just like having like a washed over like cobalt blue look. So I'm doing 2 different types of blue to see how to get that. So I've tipped that stain powder into some slip, mix it all up so it's nice and even, and then brush it over the ornaments, making sure that it's nice and even. And so this is essentially just like a coloured slip method and painting it over. I also have this really cute little cobalt jar that he had. So with this one I'm also wearing the mask for it, as well as some gloves because I don't know what this is. Like, it could be cobalt but it might not be, so I'm making sure that I'm got the protective gear on anyway. And with this one I mixed it up, and initially it went on so dark. Like, look how dark that is. I was actually really worried, and then after a while it started to settle and did this really lovely washed over look, which I'm really happy about. So that was a bit of a learning curve as well. So once those 2 were sort of left to dry and I was going to put them in the bisque, I went with another one. I didn't put any indents on this one and just left it a plain moon and started to illustrate it with sort of like a classic vintage look of a Santa with my own sort of Australian spin on it. So I've got the yellow underglaze, which I'm sort of doing like a watercolor dab over, so that it's sort of like not a complete color, but just really patchy and pastel-y. And then I went in and painted that little Santa and put the design in. Earlier I was sketching it out just because I wanted to sort of see how I was going to position the gum leaves and the little gum nuts on that moon and make sure there was enough space to actually sort of get the detail in there without it sort of blending into one and being too much as well. So yeah, I just added all that sort of just like an underglaze detail with lots of green, some red, and that sort of just reminds me of what an Australian Christmas looks like to me, is that here in Australia it has flowering gum in full bloom, bottle brush, those bright red flowers because it's the end of spring and we're going into those really warm, dusty summer months. And once that was done, I should have done this before, but I checked to make sure that my bead wire actually fit through the hole. So in they went to the bisque kiln, and the bead wire actually bent a lot because I've never used a bead wire before, and it bowed a lot, and the cobalt flashed. As you can see, there's a bit of blue on the other pieces. It flashed onto the others. So sometimes when you use cobalt, it can flash onto other pieces. So I think the wire kind of bent because there was too much on there. I went over some that I hadn't painted with some oxide wash, and then the one I did slip on, I watered down some blue underglaze, washed that over, and then sponged off the excess to kind of get that cobalt look I was going for on those blue slip ones I did. So yeah, I'm not sure about the bead wire because it was my first time using it, so I'm thinking that I need to readjust my bead tree design that I made up from what I looked up on the internet, as well as trying to find a way to get them in the kiln without as many on the wire so it doesn't bow as much. So yeah, that's going to be a learning curve for me because I've never done it before. So I propped them on the kiln stilts and popped them through the kiln, and as you can see, it's sort of hanging on that wire, and I'm hoping that it doesn't bow as much through the glaze fire. So here we go, they went through, and this is what they look like. So I only put the 4 of the unique designs through initially, and this is what they came out like. I actually really love that blue. Like, it was such a lovely surprise to have that, given I had no idea how it was going to come out. You know what? I think they all have their own beautiful quirks. So this is the cobalt. It's got a lovely sort of black and really deep blue wash. This is the slip and blue underglaze, and that came out really soft and lovely, like a lovely blue. And this vintage one with the Australian gum leaves and flowering gum, I am in love. Like, I would have this on my tree. I would have like 100. I really like it. I'm really proud of this one. It was really lovely. And then the oxide wash is gorgeous as well. It's just got this really lovely antique patina. I'd probably water it down a bit more just so it's a bit more of an even paint job. But otherwise, I really love them. What do you think? Make sure to like and subscribe for part 7.